It happened the week my son turned 1. A week I should have spent baking his first birthday cake. Not learning how cruel the world could become when your own father bolts the door in your face. 2 days earlier, I'd broken my leg at my part-time job in the diner. The floor was slick, one careless step and I went down hard. I came home on crutches, embarrassed but thankful it wasn't worse. When my father saw me, he didn't see his injured daughter. He saw what he always called me, a burden. Can't even walk straight and you expect to feed that brat? He sneered, his eyes cutting toward my sleeping baby Nathan. Leeches don't crawl into this house asking for sympathy. I froze at the doorway. My leg throbbed so badly I could hardly stand. Mom stood behind him, arms crossed, lips curved in that cruel smirk she saved for my pain. She thinks breaking a leg earns her a trophy. Maybe we should hang a disabled and proud banner outside, she mocked, sipping her tea like she was watching her favorite show. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But Nathan stirred in my arms so I rocked him instead, trying to calm him and myself. Dad, please, I whispered. Just let me stay until I can work again. I'll pay rent from my next check. His fist hit the wall so hard I flinched. You think we're your bank? You and that mistake of yours have been nothing but dead weight. You broke your leg? Good. Maybe now you'll crawl back to the gutter you came from. He snatched my crutches, ripped them from under me, and hurled them across the floor. I stumbled, barely keeping Nathan safe in my arms as his terrified cries filled the hallway, bouncing off the cracked wallpaper. Mom didn't even blink. Don't drop him, she said flatly. We don't need another excuse for you to beg for pity. Outside, rain hammered against the porch. The puddles shimmered beneath the light. I knew what was coming, their favorite cruelty, the humiliation, the forced apologies, the punishment for needing help. But that night, they didn't even pretend to make it a game. Dad swung the door open, wind slapping his face. Go crawl, Leech. For a heartbeat, I thought he was bluffing, that some tiny flicker of decency would stop him. But when he shoved me hard, sending me stumbling into the storm, I knew he meant every word. Pain ripped through my leg like fire. I tightened my grip on Nathan as he screamed from the cold, his tiny body shaking in my arms. Please, I begged. Just until the storm passes. I'll sleep in the hallway. The door slammed shut. Through the window I saw them laughing. My sister Danielle sat on the couch, phone in hand, smirking. Guess the Leech finally learned to swim, she said. Rain soaked me in seconds. I dragged myself toward the curb, one arm clawing through the mud, the other clutching Nathan close. Each movement sent lightning through my broken leg. His face pressed against my chest, his cries lost in the downpour. At the end of the driveway my strength gave out. I collapsed, sinking into the cold mud. Nathan's sobs grew louder. I screamed into the storm but no one came. Under the dim orange streetlight, I swore I'd never beg them again. Hours later Mrs. Greer, our neighbor, found us. She wrapped us in blankets, drove me to the hospital, and stayed until dawn. She didn't ask for anything. She just whispered, "You don't deserve that, honey." Those words became my anchor. I got placed in a temporary shelter. A cot beside Nathan's crib. Nights spent staring at the ceiling, haunted by the laughter behind that slammed door. I promised myself, one day when they needed warmth, I'd make sure all they'd find was the cold they'd given me. It wasn't revenge yet, just survival. But in those quiet corners of the shelter, with one good leg and a baby who depended on me, I began building something they could never destroy, a plan. The shelter became my turning point. The walls smelled faintly of bleach and burnt coffee. Mornings started with the cries of babies, but for once there was no shouting. Mrs. Greer visited often, bringing blankets, soup, or simply a kind smile that reminded me not everyone was cruel. The doctor said 6 weeks for my leg to heal. It took 9. I hobbled with a borrowed crutch, working part-time at a laundromat across the street. Nathan stayed in a playpen near the dryers, babbling as I folded strangers' clothes. Every coin I earned went into a mason jar, my escape fund. Between cycles my mind drifted back to that night. Dad's grin through the window, the satisfaction of seeing me suffer. I once thought hate was poison. Now I realized it was fuel. One day, while folding towels, I saw a flyer pinned near the exit. Community College Evening Business Program. My leg still ached, but I held onto that paper like a lifeline. By the end of the week I was in class. Nathan slept in his stroller beside me while I took notes in the back row. Days at the laundromat, nights at the diner. Caffeine and stubbornness kept me going. Every ache in my leg reminded me what they'd taken, and what I'd reclaim. Months passed. I rented a small apartment, cracked linoleum, damp walls but mine. Nathan took his first steps there, giggling every time he fell. His laughter became my heartbeat. I taped our old family photo to the fridge, not out of love, but as a reminder of who I'd never be again. Then life shifted. One night after class, my business professor, Mr. Hanley, stopped me. "You've got instinct," he said. "Ever thought about starting something of your own?" I hadn't, but that seed stayed. Within a year, I launched Shine and Rise, a small cleaning service. What began as me scrubbing offices turned into a team of 5 women, all survivors from the shelter. We grew, stubborn and strong like flowers pushing through concrete. The day I opened our second branch, my phone rang. The number froze me. Dad. For the first time in years, I let it ring once, twice. Then I picked up. "Hello." His voice was weaker than I remembered. "Lena, we need help. The roof's leaking. Your mom's sick." "The house." I said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy as that night in the rain. Finally he whispered, "Please. We've got nowhere else to go." I looked around my bright office, the scent of lemon cleaner, the sound of laughter from the hallway. Nathan, now 4, coloring in the corner with the women he called his aunties. Something in me settled. "Dad," I said quietly, "you once told me garbage belongs with garbage. I hope you found a dumpster big enough." He gasped, but I hung up. For the first time I felt peace. I didn't plan revenge that night. I lived it. Every success, every smile, every warm bed Nathan and I had, that was justice. But the reckoning wasn't over. Another storm was forming back home, one that would make them beg for shelter again. Only this time I'd be the one holding the door shut. The heat of the home felt different now, soft, alive. The air smelled like cinnamon and baby lotion. Nathan had his own little room, with glow-in-the-dark stars scattered across the ceiling. Life had texture again, warmth, sound, purpose. I thought I had closed the door on my past. But the past wasn't finished with me. One night, while I was finishing payroll for my cleaning company, a knock echoed through the house. It wasn't a polite knock. It was heavy, uneven, the kind that doesn't ask, it pleads. My stomach sank as I looked through the peephole. Dad. And behind him, Mom. They looked like ghosts wearing their own faces. Dad's hair was unkempt, his skin dull with exhaustion. Mom clutched a worn grocery bag, her hands trembling. The woman who once carried herself like a queen now stood hunched, small, uncertain. I cracked the door halfway open. Cold air rushed in. "Lena," Dad began, his voice cracking. "We didn't know where else to go. The house, it's gone. The bank took it." Danielle moved away, said we're not her problem anymore. I stared at him. The same man who once yanked my crutches away while I begged for mercy. The same man who told me to crawl like a leech. I said nothing. Mom stepped forward, her voice frail. "Your father's been sick. I haven't eaten in 2 days. Please, Lena. Just a place to stay for a few nights." For a moment memories flashed, the rain, Nathan's cries, the slam of the door, the sting in my leg. My chest tightened. I could almost smell the wet concrete again. Behind me, little footsteps patted on the floor. Nathan appeared, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. "Mommy, who's that?" he asked. Dad's eyes softened. "He's gotten big," he murmured with a faint, wistful smile. "You did good, Lena. You're stronger than I thought." And that feigned tenderness, that rewrite of the past, was the last straw. I stepped aside. "Come in," I said quietly. They entered hesitantly, like stray animals testing a trap, glancing around the house as if afraid to hope. I handed each of them a mug of tea and sat across the table. The silence was suffocating. Dad broke it first. "We were wrong, Lena. About everything. We didn't think you'd survive." A sharp laugh escaped me. "You didn't think I'd make it? You didn't want me to make it. You needed to be right, that I was useless, a mistake. You threw your own daughter into a storm and called it discipline." Mom reached for my hand. "We were angry. We didn't mean." "Don't." I cut her off, my voice like ice. "You meant every word. I remember each one." Nathan was still watching from the hallway, sensing the tension without understanding it. I gave him a soft smile. It's okay, sweetheart. Go to your room. Mommy's just talking to some old memories. He nodded and disappeared down the hall. When I turned back, their tea sat untouched, growing cold. You want a place to stay? I asked. Fine. I'll give you one. Their faces lit up, relief, shame, disbelief all tangled together. Thank you, sweetheart, Mom whispered. But, I said evenly, there's a condition. Their expressions froze. You'll work for me. You'll clean the offices I built from nothing. Mop floors. Scrub sinks. Take orders from the same kind of women you used to call garbage. You'll earn your bed and your meals. No free rides. Dad's mouth fell open. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. Mom's face twisted with anger. You'd humiliate your parents like that? I leaned forward, calm but sharp. You already did that to me. You threw me into the rain with a broken leg and a screaming baby. I prayed he wouldn't freeze. You don't get to cry now. Dad slammed his mug down, his pride sparking for a moment. We are not your servants. I stood. And you're not my parents anymore. They left that night. I thought they'd find another couch to crash on. But 2 days later I saw them again. Outside the back door of my cleaning office. It was raining just like that night years ago. They were soaked, shivering, sitting under a flickering streetlight. When my team arrived the next morning, Mrs. Greer, now my head supervisor, looked at me and whispered, "They've been out there all night." Through the window I saw Dad's arms wrapped around Mom, trying to keep her warm. They looked small, fragile, human. Something inside me shifted. Not pity, not forgiveness. Closure. I opened the door slowly. You're late for your shift, I said. Mom blinked in disbelief. You mean? I nodded. There's cleaning gear in the closet. Don't go easy on the floors. They're as dirty as everything you built. That day they worked in silence. They didn't look at me. When Dad passed by later, I caught him watching Nathan, who was drawing a picture on my office floor. Just the two of us in it. For once, Dad didn't look angry. He looked empty. At the end of the day, I paid them like everyone else. No favors. No family discounts. Just work and wages. They came back the next day and the next. Each week they grew quieter, smaller, softer. Mom stopped wearing her jewelry. Dad stopped barking orders. They started saying thank you. To me, to the women they once scorned. Then one morning they didn't show up. A note waited on my desk, written in Mom's trembling hand. We don't deserve your roof, your money, or your mercy. But thank you for showing us what strength really looks like. We're leaving the city. Don't worry about us anymore. I stared at that note for a long time, then folded it neatly and placed it beside my first earned dollar. Years later, on another cold night, I took Nathan to the same shelter where it all began. We donated new beds, clothes, and books for every mother and child. On the entrance plaque, I had engraved one line. For those who were thrown out, build your own door. When I stepped back into the rain, I didn't shiver. Because I was no longer the girl who crawled. I was the woman they once begged to stand beside. And I never let them in again.